What? Well, we're live. Ooh. I'm starting my dance moves. There we go. Uh-oh. I'll just dance. Maybe they'll think that we can hear it, but they can't. I'll do my same dance move that I do every week. I watched back on one of these and my dancing was off. I feel like we should take another class where we do dance moves. Where we do some improvements on our dance moves. Yeah. You know, I'm improving lots of things. Let's improve those dance moves. We're all about self-improvement over here. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Poor Taste, an irreverent guide to drinking wine. We are thrilled to have you joining us tonight or tomorrow night or the next night or whatever night you're watching this. Whenever you watch this, we hope you watch it live, though, because if you get to interact with us, maybe if you have a Facebook. If you don't, you get to watch us live. Yeah, you get to interact with us in spirit if you don't have a Facebook. And the best way to interact is with a glass of wine. Exactly. So we're super happy to have you here. We love interaction. Feel free to type some comments in the chat. Britt will see them probably. I will not. I do. I'm that person who reads all the comments. She doesn't see it. And she'll see me chuckling in the middle of the episode. And she'll be like, are you reading comments again? And I'm like, I just read them all. And if you missed our lovely display last week, we wanted to make the point that you don't have to interact. I think a lot of people are kind of zoomed out or tired of things they have to be on screen for. So we'll be on screen for you, and you can just sit there in whatever you're wearing, pajamas, no pajamas, bottoms, no bottoms. We don't care. You're welcome. Pants, no pants. Pants, no pants. Pants are optional. Wait, what's that one song? Like, I don't know. I'll think about it. It's a song. You're not giving me enough to work with. Okay, what's our mission statement, Britt? Oh my goodness. So in case this is your first time here, we are the irreverent guide to drinking wine, which means we don't take ourselves seriously. We don't take wine seriously other than we seriously like it. And I feel like I say that all the time. And if you are tuning in, this is the perfect episode to kind of like understand a little bit of irreverency behind wine because, oh my gosh, we're chilling red wine. And so we love each other. We are two best friends who don't live near each other. So we get to do this over this. And we're just inviting everyone to be there with us to learn about wine. We don't want people to feel dumb about wine. We're here to educate you. And we're also here to be dumb with you. So maybe Kaitlin can tell us some things we've been dumb about in the past. Well, first I wanted to say that I was thinking, nope, my train just gone. Left the station without me. Here I am in the station at the bar. Okay. I'll come back to that thought. At the airport bar. Yeah, I'm at the airport bar and the plane just flew away with my thoughts. So I'll come back to that. But what Britt was alluding to is that we have a built-in section in our introduction, which is where we are now still in our presentation. It's called the Faults and Flaws section. Okay, really quick, if anybody just heard you call this our presentation, Kaitlin has a background and degree in communication, which is why she calls it a presentation. And I just call this Thursday night. I'm going to tell you 3 things today. First, no, I'm just kidding. She keeps us on track. She's here for like making sure we stay on track. And I am just the laugh track that goes along with this. Just the laugh track. Man, I had a really good point to say too, and I didn't write it down, but I'll get back to it eventually. But we have a built-in faults and flaws section, which is just to say that we're probably gonna make some mistakes and there's a lot of risk when you do a live show because you put your foot in your mouth a lot. Sometimes we say swear words. So buckle your seatbelts, I guess, but also feel free to let us know if we mess something up or if we need to correct something, whether that's related to wine or not. We don't care. We want to hear about it. We don't have any faults and flaws this week. Seems like we did a pretty classy act. Oh my gosh, we really nailed it with Northern Spain last week. If you want a master class on Northern Spain, watch last week's episode. If you want a master class on Chocolina, watch last week's episode. And Tempranillo.
So this is where the faults and flaws section would be. But Britt, why don't you tell us what we're talking about today?
Okay, so I alluded to it a little bit. It is literally my favorite type of wine of all time, are chillable red wines. Woo! This is our ode to chillable red wines. We kind of wanted to have this episode be a little bit more of a fun episode. It's still going to bring some education and some knowledge, but it's really just going to be celebrating this right here. We're celebrating this. We're celebrating each other. I don't even know what episode this is for us. Like maybe episode 10. We're celebrating number 10. Actually, I have no idea. Oh my God, it is 10. Nope, it's 9. I'm like looking at Corey's little thing. Episode 9. We're celebrating 9.
Yeah. Cheers to that.
Cheers. We should find out what the 9-year anniversary is. Maybe Corey can look it up.
For next
I hope that you got me a present.
Ooh, okay.
But you know how, like every year it's like, I don't know, year 1 is paper.
It's like stainless steel or something. One of them, tin. Yeah. Tin is a 10-year. 10. Oh, 10 is 10. Oh, 10 is 10. Yeah.
10 is 10. What's 9?
It is willow or pottery.
Oh.
And also, there are traditional gifts and modern gifts. So that was the traditional gift. The modern gift is leather.
Ooh.
Leather. Oh, my friend. So my friend is a big. She loves a good theme. And every year she does actually give a gift around that. I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. But I remember leather was the one that she did for 9.
Oh, that's a nice one. That's cool.
So what? I have this nice leather couch to celebrate our 9th episode.
So this is the part of the show where we encourage you to start drinking your wine if you haven't already. We hope by now, if you are new, well, if you're new here, we're telling you this now, but we hope that if you're not new here, you already know by now you should drink with us from the whole beginning, all the way from the beginning.
Because we're best enjoyed with a couple knocked back.
Yes. So I'm super excited about this topic and chillable reds. We are just going to go through some things that you should know about chillable reds. Really, we're just going to kind of like take the snobbery level down from way up high and just like, meh. So no snobs here. Chill that red. We're going to talk. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about how your wine's going to evolve over time. So even if you just pulled your wine out of the fridge, still pour it, taste it. I want you to see the evolution of it. So hopefully you have a red wine. Hopefully it's chilled. Get it out.
Mine's at like the perfect temperature right now. I had it in the fridge like all day and I took it out. So we kind of like do a pre-show. We pre-party before this show. Basically, we just get on here and be like, what are you talking about? What am I talking about? Great. Let's talk about that. But anyway, so it's like kind of calmed down for an hour and now it's like perfect. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I took mine out like maybe 30 minutes ago. So mine's at a really nice temperature. It's also really hot in my house. So I think it kind of warmed up a lot faster than I would expect. So do you want to hear what I'm drinking?
I would love to hear what you're drinking. So please tell me all about it. Tits up.
Hello. Tits up. That's what I'm drinking. No, it's not called that. It's not the official name. That's just my name for it. So I'm drinking this Maria Gancia wine, and some of you may be drinking along if you have one of our wine packs. It's the Kaitlin pack, and you'll see Britt's wine in a little bit. So I think Corey has an image of this label that might help you see it a little bit better. It wraps around, so it's kind of hard to see like all the different angles of it, but it's called Maria Gancia.
There's only one angle you need to see, that angle. Am I right?
I know. It's so funny because so many people, after I posted on Instagram today, they were like, oh, I didn't even notice the tip.
I didn't even notice either until you posted the post and you didn't make note of it. And then you posted it in the story. And I was like, wow, I did not even see that. And I am someone who's usually on the lookout for that type of thing.
I told my mom too, I'm like, hey mom, put the bottle of wine that has the perky tit woman in the fridge, the witchy perky tits. And she was like, oh, wow, I didn't even notice that. It's understated until you notice it, and then you can never unnotice it.
It's very classy. Classy tits.
So this is called the Maria Gancia. It is from Spain. So we're like doubling down on the Spanish wine for me this week. It's Carignan is the grape, or Carignana, like they might say in Spain, which is the same grape. It is done in stainless steel. So I think that's a common thread for a lot of like lighter chillable wines, which we may dive into a little more deeply later on. And then what else is interesting about it? So I like this bottle. So not only is it a small production, it's like a very small winery. They take a lot of care in every step of the winemaking process, so you're not getting a mass-produced wine. It also has this woman on the front, and it's named after her because I've been trying to find this because I know this story from the winemakers, but I don't know where else to look it up. But this woman, Maria, and I think her last name might have been Gancha, is a kind of like a witch that it's similar in Spanish culture, and this might be in our faults and flaws section next week, but in Spanish culture, from what I understand of this, they picked this because this woman was a witch and she was like very beautiful, and it has something to do with sort of like kids who would give her like throw candy so that they would keep her away from them, because parents would tell their kids like, if you're not going to be good, Maria Gancha is going to come in the night and get you.
I mean, if I were a 14-year-old boy, I'd be like, okay, Maria Gancha, you can come get me.
Come on over. I think it's more like little kids. But yes, I think it's sort of like a boogeyman, like the boogeyman's going to get you. So I don't know. It's a folklore. It's like Spanish folklore. So I think it's very fun. It's a little bit hard to see how light it is in my glass based on this web. But if you have it, you can look at your glass. It's like a pretty nice light color. If you have a white surface, you can like lay it behind and see right through it. So that's what I'm drinking. It's also 2019, I believe.
Nice.
So,
well, I believe you're going to talk about about Carignan a little bit.
I have one little graphic that Corey's going to put up. So we're going to talk about chillable reds, obviously. So I wanted to show you where Carignan kind of fits in the grand scheme of red wines. It's basically like right in the middle, a little bit closer to the lighter side. But it is considered on the lighter side of red wines. So lighter, medium side. So that's just to kind of give you an idea of where it fits in the spectrum. So
nice.
What are you drinking?
Okay. I'm drinking this lovely wine. There it is. Don't even have to hold my bottle up. It's one of those lazy days. Gulp, gulp. That sound that you make when you're chugging some wine. That's what it's all about. This one is a Cinsault. It is from Chile. It is a 2018. And what's really cool about it, I felt like it was kind of like me and you, Kaitlin. So it's actually two winemakers partnered together on it. And one is Julio Bouchon, who lives in Chile. And the other one is David Newfound from South Africa. And they're two winemakers from different locations, coming together and creating this thing together, which is kind of like me and you. So they're super small production, which is really cool I think that it's really cool to support or to get small production because you're not going to see this on shelves or anything. They do 750 cases. That's it. 750 cases of this wine. So if you're drinking this wine, I mean, enjoy it, drink it down, but it's also be like, hell yeah, I have one wine and there's only 750 cases of this made.
I tried to go buy some bottles of this wine for some folks. Hopefully they're tuning in, but I tried to go buy some bottles of it in San Diego yesterday. And there's no store in San Diego that carries it because it's just such small production. It's like some restaurants, but they're all closed and that's it. So these are rare little babies.
Okay. I have this brilliant idea, Kate. We should go out to all the restaurants that are closing down and buy their wine.
And then what? Open our own online wine shop?
Then we should definitely do that with the wine that we buy, but I bet we could get it for a killer deal.
Yeah, maybe. And then where will I put it? My house is already overflowing with wine.
With stick bugs.
And other various creatures, yes.
Let me tell you a little bit more about it. Dry farmed. So a little bit about dry farming. That means they don't irrigate it. They don't, water the plants, which makes it that tends to make more concentrated wine, more concentrated grapes. They are bush trained, so they don't grow up in that pergola style. They're all just grown closer to the ground. Granite soil with a little bit of clay. This region is going to be along the Andes Mountains and the coast, so it's a really cold region, which you wouldn't think about. I'm sorry, when I think about South America, I don't think cold, but it's so close to Antarctica, and with the Andes there, it's really a colder climate. No fining and no filtering, which is gonna give it a little bit of funk, which I like. I was kind of when I tasted, I'm ooh, I hope the people at home are not oh, what are they making me drink? Because I like it. So, and native yeast. So they don't introduce any commercial yeast to it. So it's going to really have that kind of localized taste to it. What are you tasting in yours? Tell me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think last week we kind of forgot to do this part. But
we forgot to do it because you had the longest information about Chocolina.
But it was just so exciting. I love Chocolina. So my wine is like cranberries. It does have some spice characteristics to it, which I don't always expect to have in like a lighter style like this. It kind of has some like green notes. Like I wouldn't be surprised if there was some like maceration of the stems, like when they're crushing the wine, if some like stemmy green bits get in there, because it definitely kind of has like a little bit of that.
Also at home, tell us what you're tasting in your wines. If you're drinking along, that's great. Even if you're not, tell us what you're tasting. We'd love to hear.
Cherries, strawberry, cranberry, like a lot of those kind of like those bright red fruits with like crunchy green notes. It's great. Mine's delicious.
Awesome.
What are you tasting?
I love Monsant, where yours is from. Like those, they have great wines coming out of there.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool spot.
Okay, so I feel like I'm just gonna copy you, but I just want everybody to know that I tasted this before and had a discussion with Corey, and I used like all those same things that she said.
Sorry.
I'm just joking. But definitely cranberries on mine, like really almost pomegranate a little bit, I would say too, like kind of that crunchy redness. Also a little bit of like pebbly, like I know like maybe I am a little biased because I know the knowledge about where it's grown, but it feels almost that granite, like if you ever got punched in the face and your mouth fell on the ground, you had a mouthful of rocks and spit them out, and you wonder, it's a little bit like that. And and then I think there's like a little bit of herbaceousness in it as well, which I really like. And it's definitely evolved, just so everybody knows. Like when I first smelled it, it smelled a lot different than it smells right now. And as things kind of warm up, they release different aromas. So just sometimes, like if I'm in a wine tasting and I'm trying to guess what it is, which is silly, and I have a white wine that's way too cold and I can't smell anything, I'll go like this to warm it up. I'm not going to do that with this one, even though I just did. So yeah, and then it has that little bit of funk that we were talking about, which is it's not fine, not filtered, doesn't have the introduction of sulfur, doesn't have that, or it has native yeast. So it's really a natural wine. So it has like almost sometimes with natural wines, how they preserve them, if they're not adding sulfur, is they'll put a little bit of CO2 in it, which preserves the wine. And so I was talking to Corey about it. I'm like, if you think about the little Mr. Bubbles or whatever, the little scrubbing bubbles, I think about them on my tongue, and it has a little bit of that to it.
Yum.
Okay, cool. Great.
That sounds delicious.
Okay, so what's next?
Okay, cool. So we have a couple different things we're going to teach you about chillable wines today. I hope you'll, keep drinking along. So first, what is a chillable red? So we kind of made a lot of assumptions. We told you to go get a chillable red. And I know I got some texts from people like, what is a chillable red? And it's funny because I had a discussion with one of the wine shop guys where I was at yesterday. And I was like, yeah, we're doing like a discussion on chillable reds. And I was like, what kind of reds do you like? He's like, everything. Like, I like everything chilled. I put everything in the fridge. And so it was just funny. Like when we're saying what is chillable reds, there's going to be a lot of irreverence here because basically there's a wide girth for like what you can consider a chillable red. So, I saw your eyebrows.
Okay. Just making sure you saw that one.
I saw it. So a couple things. A chillable red is just a red that you put in the fridge that you want to drink with some chill on it. We're going to talk to you about like why some wines are better to put in the fridge than others.
Your sister chills all her reds.
What?
I said your sister chills all of her reds.
Is that what you said? I basically chill all my reds too. I remember you came to my house once, Britt, and you're like, wait, you put that in the fridge? And I was like, yes.
I mean, I put all of them in the fridge, but you put them in the fridge for a really long time, which shocks me.
Yeah, sometimes I just leave them in the fridge. Like this one I put in the fridge like 2 days ago, and then I just left it until today, like an hour ago. So,
and I just want to say, your sister probably has to chill all of her reds because she lives in Texas.
Yeah, that's true too. And it's summertime. It's like, the feeling where you don't want to, like my boss was telling me today, he was like, yeah, sometimes it's just like hot out and somebody brings a red and you're like, oh gosh, I don't want to drink that red. Well, that's why we have chillable reds. Pop that sucker in the fridge for a little bit and then it's chillable red. But there is actually a little bit more to it. So a couple things. It is wine that you drink when it's hot out. Like usually a chillable red is not something that I'm going to drink in the wintertime, although in San Diego, it's kind of year round. So like a rosé in some ways. Some characteristics of typical chillable reds would be things like a thin-skinned grape. So if you have lighter, like we both, I think, made comments about how light our wines were, and I have some images later on. Yes, perfect timing, Corey. So this is obviously, it's a picture of a Pinot Noir, and that's not what I have, but I think it's nice for you to be able to see how light it is and how easily you can read something straight through there versus like something like a Cab or a Syrah or something a little heavier, you wouldn't be able to read through. And those don't make as good of, as nice as of a chillable red.
So thin-skinned grapes, does that mean they can't take a joke?
Oh my gosh, that was like such a dad joke. Where did you get that from?
From my dad.
Okay.
No, I'm just joking.
That would be funny if you did. So yeah, thin skin, they tend to be lighter bodied wines. So it's the same theory with like, you don't want to drink this big, heavy, high alcohol wine. So a lot of times they're lighter in alcohol, they're thinner skinned, they're lighter bodied, a lot of fruit forward. So a lot more fruit than earth on chillable reds. And that's just because they can be like nicer and fresher after they've been in the fridge. Whereas like sometimes bigger reds can yield some unsavory notes if they're in the fridge, but fruit forward, young. And then Britt kind of mentioned a little bit about like, kind of a carbonic, like a CO2, or like we've talked in the past on the shows about carbonic maceration, which is taking the whole cluster of the grapes and letting them ferment inside each grape skin, which kind of preserves some of these like bright, effervescent, like these little kind of, it's not sparkling, but these like little bursts of flavor on your mouth. So a lot of chillable reds have that as a characteristic as well. And then I just made a note, a lot of cooler climate ones too. Like Britt was saying, hers is a cool climate grape. And the reason for that is cool climates produce lighter, fresher styles of wine with more acid. And that's kind of what makes a chillable red delicious. And then I just wrote, or like had been reading, and I wanted to say chillable reds, I like to refer to them as porch pounders or like glue wine, which is—
Oh, are you getting into my section about how to decode? Like,
oh, okay. I don't know. I'll stop then. I'll stop. So, okay, we'll leave that for later. And if Britt has any gaps, I'll fill them in.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, so take it away. Tell us, what are some common grape varieties for chillable reds?
Okay, so Kate told us about some great characteristics that you should be looking for when you're looking for them. But like kind of common varieties that you can like pretty like safely assume that they're chillable reds. I'm going to go over them. Actually, we have this lovely infographic. Thank you, Wine Folly.
Yes.
Let me just give a round of applause for Wine Folly.
Yeah.
Wine Folly, great graphic designer by trade, wine lover by second trade. But anyway, so this is kind of the scheme of like colors, like where everything falls. So we're going to zoom in a little bit on the lighter ones because that's what we're talking about. Schiava, Gamay, Pinot Noir, Grenache, Babal, like some of these you've never heard of. Let me tell you about a few others too. So the ones that I wrote down when I was like researching the kind of the most recognized chillable reds. So Zweigelt, Frappato, and we've talked about some of these in past episodes, so maybe you remember them. Cinsault, which I'm drinking. Carignan, which she's drinking.
I'm drinking.
Blaufränkisch, Pinot Noir, Bernardo, Valdeguet, the most liberated grape variety of them all. Trollinger, and Trousseau. You know, I found out that Schiava and Trollinger are the same grape.
Oh, really? I think I did know that.
Anyway, some fun stuff. So when you're looking, like those are some ones to look for. And let me tell you about the OG, original gangster chillable red wine is Gamay, which is my favorite grape. Well, I don't know about favorite. We did a like episode that we didn't show anyone except for like real close friends. And it was an episode on Beaujolais, which is a region after my heart. But anyway, we talked about how there is this game that maybe you've heard of called Fuck, Marry, Kill. And Gamay is definitely my fuck one because
you pick, right?
You pick. So you
which
pick
wine.
Which wine are you just like, yeah, that's the wine I want to fuck. That's the wine I want to marry. That's the wine I want to kill. And Gamay is my one for that. And so I just love it because it's like, it's, enjoyed young, uncomplicated. You don't have to call her tomorrow. So anyway, but yes, so Gamay, specifically Beaujolais Gamays, are like the OG original gangster chillable reds, and that has a lot to do with carbonic maceration, like Kaitlin was talking about, how they already have that effervescence. Also, if you've ever been to Beaujolais, which I have not, so if anyone wants to take me, I'm here for it. We're here for it. Like, please sponsor us to go to Beaujolais. But if you've ever been to the region, like it's all like farmers, which is, I think, super cool. And so it's like people who are really unpretentious with their wine. And I had heard that basically they're all out there like picking grapes, doing this in the harvest. And then when they come in for lunch, it's just like tons of bottles of Beaujolais that are all in like on ice buckets, like that you're just chugging with your lunch. Like, okay, like and there's actually a word for it in French. It's called vin de soif, which means the wine of thirst. And so like, if you like a thirst quenching wine, just think about that. That's what you want after a hot day working in the fields. You want a thirst quenching wine. So that is what Beaujolais is. Everyone should drink more Beaujolais. Also, even all of the grapes that me and Kaitlin talked about, they fall into that category of like chillable reds. But you want to, like, there are some serious Beaujolais out there that are done in oak, even Pinot Noirs. Like, you always want to ask your wine purveyor or whatever, like, just say, okay, like, how is this made? And like Kaitlin was talking about, stainless steel versus oak, that can really determine, like, whether or not it's a chillable red. And so, and how serious it is and how much they want it to age and things like that. So, yes.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Is the wine going to be damaged if it's not chillable and you put it in the fridge?
No.
I was like, if you need it.
It's not going to, but the thing is, it might highlight notes that you wouldn't want to have highlighted. Yeah. Like when you chill wine too much, bitter astringent flavors can come out. And, okay, great, good, we're done. I'm done talking. You're going to tell us all about that. Oh, why don't you tell us, Kaitlin? I'm kind of over so everybody knows the varieties. So now if you're out there, I'm looking for a Gamay, I'm looking for a Trollinger, I'm looking for a Schiava, because I want this. Oh, and just so everybody knows, it is so overcast here in San Francisco, in the Bay Area. But I like, maybe you've heard of The Secret, where you like it's like the power, like willing what you want into existence. So I dressed in this lovely, like, summertime outfit, and I'm drinking this chillable red in this really cold weather right now.
I know I didn't have any festively red shirts to wear, sadly. But okay, so
just so really quick, Alan, I did work in the fields because I have worked a wine harvest. So I see that comment. Remember those hot days when we used to work in the fields? Yes, I do.
Alan and
I could have definitely used a Gamay.
Actually, Alan and I once did a harvest out in like east of San Diego, and he was visiting town, and I was like, if you're coming to visit, here's what I have going on for this weekend. And he was a champ, and we went out there and we harvested grapes, and we only did it for one day, so it's not the same.
So he does remember that. I don't know what he's saying in his comment about that he doesn't. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so let's talk now about some general rules. So I wanted to go over kind of just in general, not just for chillable reds, but in general, what are serving temperatures for wine? Because it's a lot of people have questions about this. So let's go ahead and look at this chart. This is a lot to remember, but
oh my God.
I know.
I feel like I'm taking my server exam. Like, okay, so I can pass my serve safe.
Right. So like on the left-hand side, ice cold are sparklings and light-bodied whites. And then you kind of move over like cold. You want them like white's cold, but you don't usually, I think restaurants serve wines too cold if they're white and too warm if they're red. So the light-bodied reds kind of fall into like the 55 to 60 degrees. And then notice even the full-bodied room temperature wines are 60 to 68 degrees. So I was reading something where they're like, okay, most people don't live in like a castle where the room temperature is 60 degrees. So room temperature, if it's 70, 80 degrees inside your house, that is too hot to be serving a wine at room temperature, just as a general FYI. So obviously these kind of change, and you can put any of them in different places, but like Britt said, well, you can, nothing's gonna be wrong with the wine, but like a sparkling, who wants to drink a warm sparkling? That sounds disgusting.
That sounds disgusting.
Yeah, it's like a LaCroix that's been sitting in your car and you open it up and you're like, oh gosh, it's not refreshing, and it should be. So it's the same thing with like those light-bodied reds, medium reds, 55 to 60 degrees. And also, just so you know, the normal fridge temperature is about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So you could put these like your white wines in the fridge, but then when you pull them out, they got to like climb up 5 to 10, 15 degrees to get to where you should be drinking them. And then reds, you could put in the fridge, kind of bring them down from room temp to get them. So a general rule that I learned when I was studying wine, and I didn't see this officially written down somewhere, but it was like, for white wines, take them out of the fridge 20 minutes before you serve them. Red wines, put them in the fridge 20 minutes before you serve them. But those are like not chillable reds. Those are just like regular.
That
reds.
is a great description. That's, oh my gosh, I'm going to use that for the rest of my life.
We're all about those handy tips around here. So
pro tips, hashtag pro tips.
Pro tips, yeah. So if it was a chillable red though, like Britt already mentioned, I put them in the fridge for like hours and then I pull them out and then I just observe how they change over time. Like this was much colder when I first pulled it out, but now it's probably more like in that 60-degree range, and it's got totally different aromas than it did originally. So hopefully you're experiencing that with your wines as well. Let's see, a couple other things. I was reading something that said, it was from the Wine Enthusiast. It was an article. It said, wine should rarely be colder than 45 degrees unless they're porch pounders on a hot day. And I was like, porch pounders! That's basically the definition of chillable reds, porch pounders on a hot day. So let's see, that's all I got. That's all I got for temperature control. So 20 minutes in for reds, 20 minutes out for whites. You're welcome.
Nice. Basic bitch tips. Those are our basic bitch tips. Basic bitch tits.
Yeah, tits up.
Tits up. That should be our new hashtag we start using.
It probably will be.
Yes. Okay. So now that she told us the perfect temperature to keep all of our wines at, let's talk about how to kind of decode the language behind chillable reds. More like when you see a red and someone's describing it to you, maybe at the, like when you're at the market, or if they have those little tags where they say stuff about them, words that you might see, or at a restaurant, if those ever come back. Words that you might see that really tell you, oh yeah, tell me about it. I was a restaurant manager before this all went down.
Wine director.
What'd you say?
Wine director. You got to give yourself some more credit.
Assistant wine director, but thank you. I'll take it. Anyway, so now let's talk about things that maybe you see on a menu, maybe a wine salesperson tells you, or things like that, for you to know if it's a chillable red. And Kaitlin maybe mentioned a couple of them. Porch pounder. Hell yeah. If it's a porch pounder, you can put that shit in the fridge. If they talk about it's being crunchy, and we even mentioned it kind of when we were talking about taste, crunchiness, like crunchy red fruits, probably a red wine you can chill. Bright acidity. If they talk about a bright acidity, it's probably one you can chill down. Mm-hmm. If they say low tannins, they're like, oh, this red wine has really low tannins. You can probably chill that one down. Maybe the word zippy is used in the description. If it's zippy, it can probably be chilled down. Refreshing. Like I talked about in the Vin de Sauf, Wine of Thirst, it is a refreshing wine. So if it says refreshing, if they say light alcohol, it's probably going to go down. Like you could look at, like we talked on the German episode about like kind of things that you can tell, like light alcohol and stuff like that. I don't really know how that's going to relate in a minute, but like how you can look at a bottle and be like, oh, I'm looking at the alcohol. I can kind of guess if it has residual sugar. Well, if you look at the alcohol of a red and you see how low it is, you can pretty much guess whether or not you can put it in the fridge.
Oh, can I add something?
What? Yes.
Can I add something? So I used to, when things were still open, sometimes in the evenings when I needed to do work, I'd go to a wine shop and I'd get like a full bottle of red wine that had just came out of the fridge. So I'd pull it out and then I would sit and work on my computer and people would be like, how can you get work done while you're drinking like that? And I wouldn't even drink that much. But the ticket was you got to have a low alcohol wine percentage. It'll be like a 10% wine. And then you drink a couple glasses of that and you can keep working and you're still cognizant versus like a 14%, it's going to knock you out when you're trying to. So
exactly. What's your percent? Tell me what your percent is.
Mine's 13, which is like kind of high.
Mine's 12.5, which is like right in that sweet spot.
Yeah.
For a red. I'm like, hell yeah. Okay. So other things that maybe you see, racy. If you see someone describe a wine as racy, it is probably a chillable red. These are only words that I'm talking about with reds. Though they can use those same words for whites, and that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
You can chill those too.
Yes, as you most likely should be. If someone describes a wine as easy or unfussy, it's probably a chillable red. Crushable. Crushable is a word that if you hear it, it's a chillable red.
Chuggable.
Chuggable. If someone talks about a wine being chuggable, you better be putting that wine on ice. Unpretentious. So just like this show, that's why I think this is a perfect episode for us. Unpretentious is a lovely way. So these are all words to just like be looking for. Other things that are on there, like if people talk about a picnic wine, it's a chillable wine. Another word, and Kaitlin kind of alluded to it, and I made her stop because I'm like, hey, I'm talking about that word. Glue glue, which is going to be, it's a French expression, and it actually has to do with chillable reds. And I was reading this lovely article about about them, and they're like, glue glue is like the Macarena. Is it a verb? Is it a noun? Who knows? Like, hey, Macarena.
Also, I always think it's so funny that every different language has their own like spelled out way of referring to that same sound. So like gloop, yours is like Spanish, and then glue glue is the French one. And it's like, it's funny that it's a sound that we have written out in different languages.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, I thought what was really interesting in this article that I was reading about glue glue, that it was talking about how it doesn't have to do with quality. And they actually French, they have a word for like lower quality wines, which is jaja. Like, but it's totally different than glue glue. Glue glue is just more of like wine that is unpretentious, wine that is more for being enjoyed. It's not wine that's like meant to be like, okay, I'm going to think about this wine for the next hour. Yes, exactly. So it's meant to be. You like that one?
I like that sniffing.
Yes. So anyway, that is not what glue glue is about. It's about creating accessibility behind wine and like really making it like equal. But it's also not about like what Americans often see it as, which is like overconsumption and things like that. It's just more like that it's for everyone and that it doesn't have to be this snooty thing. And that actually comes a lot into play when thinking about the characteristics that you were talking about, like how porch pounders, glue glues, how those wines are done in stainless steel. So they don't have that oak, which oak is very expensive. And so you're going to get these, not only are you going to get like wines that you can drink younger that I don't have to cellar forever. I don't have to be this really rich person that can cellar my wines, but I also like don't have to pay a lot because they're making them in a younger style. They're making them in a refreshing style. So you should drink more chillable reds, as should all of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Kaitlin.
Also, I'll add to that and say that a lot of very well-known, very well-respected winemakers have like their serious line of wines, but then they come out with these fun projects where they're just like, we just want to have fun and we just want to make a cool wine that's like crushable, porch pounding, the wine you don't have to feel bad about taking to a picnic with your friends who don't drink wine that much.
Okay, question. Tell me what serious winemaker and what's their side project that you're like totally into? Go ahead.
Matthiasson. They make their Tondu. They make a liter, and it's like $18 for a liter, which is more than one bottle. And it is like, you put that shit in the fridge, and that's what I drink at a lot of at the wine shops. I just sit there with a liter, and I'll maybe have like a glass and a half, and then I'll take it home and drink it for the next 3 days. But it's so great. That's like a very well-respected winemaker. And then that's a good question. So Lauren says, if you don't finish a bottle of red, should it be refrigerated? Well, it depends. I mean, you don't have to refrigerate it. You can leave it out for 3 days. I like to put mine in the fridge because I prefer to drink most of them a little bit chilled. So sometimes this is what Britt disagrees on, I think, but I put mine sometimes in the fridge.
Oh, I put it in the fridge if I've opened it. Like 100% I'll put it in the fridge if I open it. Yeah.
Every time you open a red, you'll put it in the fridge after?
Yeah. I think it kind of preserves it a little bit more.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
But you don't have to. Like, I've worked in so many restaurants, we never did that. We just like sucked the air out and left them on the counter, and that's fine. But I just feel like, for me, I'm always happier to revisit them a few days later. It's like cold pizza, you know, like pizza's good when you have it, but then like a few days later, it's like different, but it's even better sometimes.
And this is a perfect wine to go with cold pizza. Like,
ooh, yeah, like
yes.
2 or 3 day old like chilled red with 2 or 3 day old pizza. I'm like, man, that is
match made in heaven.
Okay, so let's talk about why chillable red work really well with food. So why do they work well with food?
Speaking of pizza and chillable red.
Like that segue, like from pizza to food. I'm like, I feel like I just said it all right there with pizza. The first note I made is because they're delicious. So end of story. No.
Mic drop. Because they're delicious. That's all you need to know.
I felt like I needed to remind myself to say that because like that's why I drink chillable reds, is because they're delicious. But they are also so good with a variety of food. So if you ever have somebody, like I said, a picnic or like a summertime where a lot of friends that I know, they are like, oh, I only drink reds. But then it's like summertime and it's like 85 degrees outside and you're thinking like, what am I going to bring them that I actually want to drink at this time of day? So that's where I think a chillable red kind of is like a happy medium for people. So they're delicious. They're easy to drink. They are lighter in style. So it's easy on a hot day to like take something in like more refreshing and light, like we had talked about before. They have a good amount of acidity, which is one thing that makes them really good with food. And that acidity is like that tart, mouth-watering feeling that you get when you're drinking a wine that doesn't come with all wines. But I think a lot of lighter styles, they kind of maintain that acidity, which acid and food are like besties. And the way I describe this when I'm talking to people about pairing.
You. Okay, who's acid, who's food?
I don't know. I want to be acid.
I'm acid. Have you met me? I am like, I do some sick burns sometimes, and I really need to work on it.
Some sick burns.
Sick burn, dude.
So the reason why I think acid and food work well together is because acidity, when you're drinking something that's acidic, it makes your mouth water. And then the thing you want to do next is grab for some food. And then once you're eating the food, then you need something to kind of wash it down and be refreshing. And you grab for the wine. And then you create like this cycle. And it's just so nice.
I had read that same thing about chewing gum.
Oh, that it makes you
it makes your mouth like water, and it gives your like, it makes you chew but not get anything. And so gum actually makes you hungrier. I don't know if that's full of shit. It'll maybe be in our corrections corner.
I think I'll just stick with wine if they do the same thing. I mean, gum, wine. I like the wine option better.
Me too.
Okay, so some flavors are actually accentuated by chilling your reds, whereas like I think Britt alluded to this earlier, where it can taste like certain wines can be like really metallic, or they can be really what was the term you used, Britt, for bad?
Astringent.
Astringent, yeah.
Bitter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bitter, astringent, if you put them in the fridge. But then there are other flavors that are common in lighter style reds that can actually be accentuated by putting them in the fridge, like strawberries or red cherries. So those fruit forward wines can really be like better sometimes when they have a little bit of a chill on them. Let's see. There's less alcohol burn. Like for personally, when I'm hot, I just don't want to feel like high alcohol. So those are the reasons I think they go so well with food. Did you have something to add? Yeah.
I will in a minute. But I actually did have the same question that Patricia had, since, you know, I read all of them. Yay, Patricia. Go ahead, Kaitlin. You can answer it because I wanted to know what you thought. Or like, what do you feel like differentiates chillable reds from rosés? And that kind of, I think, leads a lot into the food pairing. And I can talk about it if you'd like, but I feel like since you're already doing this section, why don't you do it?
Okay, I'll start and then you can jump in. So Patricia, I'm so envious of the wines you're drinking. I hope you're liking them because I picked them up yesterday and I saw them. Wait, Corey, put it back up. I need to see the whole thing. Okay, reds versus rosé. What's your preference for picnics, porch pounding? So I love rosé. We did a rosé episode, and
if you didn't watch it, guess what? All of our episodes are on Facebook. You should watch them.
Yes, good shout out. So Britt and I were talking about this earlier, and we were just talking about how there's such a fine line between rosés and chillable reds. Like some of them, people will be like, oh, that's a chillable red. Well, it's kind of more of a rosé technically. Or they'll be like, oh, this is a rosé, but it actually is like pretty dark. It's more like a red. So that line is fuzzy anyway. And I love rosés. I think that it just depends on maybe the crowd, depends on what I'm eating. Like barbecue, for instance, I might be more likely to bring a chillable red versus a rosé. But like maybe like salads and stuff, I might bring a rosé. What do you think, Britt?
That's exactly what I was going to mention is like, one, I love chillable reds. Like if I go out to dinner, even at a fancy restaurant, I'm doing a chillable red just because I think it goes with so much food. So that's one reason why I love chillable reds. It's like it can go with beginning, middle, and end of a meal, which is really nice. Like, and it tends to be a crowd pleaser. So Caitlin's friends came into my restaurant once and they were just like, oh, well, I like a white and I like reds. And I'm like, okay, we could do a rosé, which obviously is like right in the middle. But I'm also like, why don't we do a light-bodied chillable red? Perfect. We did a Menthea and I was like, yeah, they loved it. I love Menthea. Menthea should also have been on my list. It can be chilled. It might not be. It depends on you. But that's kind of where I draw the line of whether or not I'm doing a rosé or a chillable red. And that's why I love chillable reds. I think that they can stand up to heavier food. Like Kaitlin was saying, barbecue, burgers, things like that. Like chillable reds stand up to bigger food. Like, so if you're having a backyard barbecue and you're like, okay, well, it's really hot out, but we're making burgers. Like, what do I serve with it? Chillable red is number one on my list. So highly recommend. But that is kind of where I decide what I'm going to serve is like, okay, what are we having with it?
Or if you have those friends, like I said, I have come across a lot of people in my years of working in restaurants or even just friends of mine who are like, I only drink reds. And they're just like insistent on drinking reds. So I make it my personal mission to move them as close to whites as I can. And I start with chillable reds and then I bring them into rosés by calling it like a really, really light red or like a really big rosé. And then I finally eventually will get them to enjoy whites when they are ordering like fish or something. So
I will also say like difference between reds and rosés. And I know that there are some rosés out there that are serious rosés and they're so awesome. Like Chateau Simone, man, they do like savory rosés and they're so good. But I feel like chillable reds are a little bit kind of like a little bit more serious than, not that we like seriousness around here, but they're a little more serious than rosés. Like where they're just like, okay, like I want to still have a like wine that people kind of like have to think about a little bit more. And for me, this is just me personally. Rosés are just like, those ones are pounders. Like I'm gonna chug a rosé. And even though we talked about this being a chuggable red, like chillable reds, I might not chug
as fast.
I'm gonna chug that rosé, but I'm not gonna chug that red.
Well, it's funny too, because I don't want to give the impression that whites are like completely not serious, because we kind of like, it creates this like bump, because I think rosés, like you're saying, I agree, they're like a little less serious than maybe a chillable red, but whites can be very serious too. So you kind of have seriousness on both sides of rosé. So just as like so that we don't have
rosés can be serious, but generally speaking, rosés are, they're like my Gamay. They're uncomplicated. I'm not calling that rosé tomorrow.
Okay, so any other thoughts on the food pairings, or is it time for Britt's poem?
Okay, so this is an ode to rosé. No, it's not. This is an ode to chillable reds.
Oh yeah.
Okay. As Robert Louis Stevenson once said, wine is bottled poetry. So let's swirl our wine and enjoy, just bask in the glory of Chillable Reds for a moment while I recite a lovely poem that I wrote today for all of you. Just so you know, it's kind of like hard to read a poem that I wrote, but I'm going to do it. So anyway, I also am practicing The Secret. So I am putting out there the intentions that I want. I'm talking about a hot summer day. It is not a hot summer day.
It is down here. You can
Great, good. I am transporting myself into San Diego. I wish I were there with you right now. But anyway, okay. All right, I'm doing it.
Do it.
The long days of summer, sunshine dancing in my head. How shall we mark the passage of time? Perhaps with a bottle of Chillable Red. The sweat beating on your soft curves, under the sun's jealous gaze. Your beauty shall not be compared to that of warm mayonnaise. I devour you like a summer book, the one I can't put down. But there is no guilt in this pleasure, just happiness distilled to a sound. Well,
Yay!
Okay, so now that we heard my sappy love poem, ode to Chillable Reds, let's hear what do you want to eat with your Chillable Red? And what do you want to listen to?
Okay, so I actually kind of took a page out of my pairings for this because I wanted to drink this at a summer barbecue. I think it's wishful thinking because I just really want to have a barbecue with my friends in the park. I miss those days where you could just pack a couple chilled reds and take them to the park with all your friends. So really, I was reading about like chillable reds and they're like, oh, they're so good with like, they can stand up to meat. One of the things I read actually about this wine specifically, I think, is that it's really good with birds, is what it said. It was a Spanish translation. They just said birds. And I was
like fowl? Like,
yeah, but they just said the word birds. Really great with birds. So I want some birds and some barbecue, some barbecue birds. And yeah, that's what I want with this. And a park with some shade and some sunshine and some blankets.
Good.
And some friends.
So good. You're just making my heart cry.
I know. We're deprived.
For so many reasons. Okay. Anyway, what do you want to listen to with it?
Oh, well, I think Corey has a song queued up for me. It's a Seals and Croft, Summer Breeze.
Summer breeze makes me feel fine, blowing through the jasmine in my mind.
I wish I were doing that right
Summer
now.
breeze makes me feel fine, blowing through the jasmine in my mind.
I mean, what do you think, Britt?
I mean, I'm not drinking your wine, but I think that sounds like a lovely pairing. I'll listen to that song while I'm under the shade of a tree having some birds. Maybe duck will be the bird that I'm having.
Two birds.
I hear duck's a bird.
Okay, so what do you want to eat yours with?
Okay.
Or drink your wine with, food-wise?
I know. No, I always am like, so what are you drinking this with? And I'm like, I'll be double fisting. I literally feel like I say that every week. I'm like, But anyway, I want to have a hamburger. Like, I just feel like this is like burger wine to me. I'm like, oh, I could go for some burgers right now. Like, just like something off the barbecue, or maybe like ribs. Yeah. Ribs or barbecue. Like, cause I feel like, I don't know, cause I'm not drinking yours, but I feel like mine can stand up to that a little bit. Okay. That's kind of like what I want to have right now. I just feeling it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the song that I want to listen to, maybe like there's always like a summer anthem, you know, I feel like that happens every year, and it's really sad right now because there's not so much, we don't have our summer anthem, but actually some really great groups are coming out with new songs. And so this is kind of my summer anthem. It's Cobra Man, and it's called Light Me Up, and I'm going to get lit.
I know it's
Won't you light me up again? Light me up again. Won't you light me up
Oh my God, it goes perfect with this wine.
Yeah, that's great. I like it.
Yeah. So
like
anyway, I want to have some barbecue burgers and I want to have some ribs and I want to listen to that song and I want to pair it with more wine, like Dennis says.
Yeah.
Amen, Dennis. That's really what I want to pair this wine with.
Okay, so yep, I'll be pairing it with more wine. Perfect. Great. So again, we hope you learned a few things about Chillable Reds, and we hope
I don't even care if you didn't learn anything. I just hope that you love Chillable Reds a little bit more than you did before.
Yeah. It's just incremental persuasion. We're just moving you along the spectrum.
Yeah. We all fall somewhere along the spectrum.
Okay, so believe it or not, Britt and I do this every Thursday at 6 p.m., same time, same place. I'm always in my living room. Britt's always in her living room. Hope you are too.
You're always in your living room.
Yeah. Next week, we are talking about New Zealand. So I know that we are bringing reds and whites to the table next week. So go out, grab an island wine from New Zealand. I'm really excited. There is more than Sauvignon Blanc in New Zealand. So if you're not...
No, there's not.
Well, tune in next week and we will tell you what else they grow there. So definitely tune in next week. You can find old episodes on our Facebook Live or Facebook and I guess YouTube too, but we're not very good about that side of it. So maybe venture at your own risk or find them at your own risk. But we would love it if you would join us. Oh yeah, importtastewine.com. We have a very rough skeleton of a landing page. If you know anyone who's got those skills, send them our way, especially if they're free.
Pretty much if they're free.
Yeah, we're working on it. It's a lot to do when you got a lot of other stuff on your plate. So, Britt, want to tell us about the wine packs? I know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so maybe you've been drinking along with us. Maybe you had this lovely wine today. Maybe you had Kaitlin's. We got Tits Up Lady today.
Boobies.
If you want to drink along with us and you live in a neighboring state, please get a pack. At this point, the packs will have lost the first 2 episodes, but you know what? 2 bottles of wine around your house. Oh my gosh, what are you gonna do with that? Like, drink it? Okay.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh. So I have never kicked a wine out of bed for eating crackers, except for really bad wines. And so anyway, so if you're like me and you're like, okay, I'm totally down to have 2 extra wines around the house. Go to our website. There's the link to buy the wine pack so you can drink along with us. Kaitlin said it beautifully one time. She was like, if you want to see if we're full of shit when we're talking about what we're tasting in our wine, get a pack. Call us out in the episodes. Anyway, there's my pack, which is way better. I'm just joking. And then there's Caitlin's pack. So the last 2 episodes that we have set up with our packs right now are New Zealand. And then after that, we have anniversaries. We're celebrating all the things we're leaving behind in our life. And we're celebrating with some bubbles. And we're going to talk about bubbles. So that's the next episode after that. So follow along with us and you'll get 2 extra bottles with it. And I just want you guys to know, you know what comes with every wine pack that you purchase? A free class with every bottle. Come on. Free class with every bottle and us. So anyway, go to importtastewine.com.
You're also welcome to show up with any wines that you have because all wines are welcome here. That is
all wines are welcome here. And maybe like Alyssa, who can't get them because she lives in Hawaii, who is like a huge fan of ours, love her. Maybe you're like her and you can't get them. You can bring any wine to this episode, any wine to any episode, because we want to make wine accessible to people. And that is our mission. And we just want to bring our love of wine to you.
And our love of each other.
And our love for each other. And if you kind of are a little intimidated to get wine, you're not sure what to get it from us because we've chosen some great wines.
Or find us on Instagram, ask us, message us. If you know us, we can help you. We want you to be here. So whatever we can do to make that happen.
Speaking of our Instagram, there it is.
Check us out. And again, as always, Britt,
stay thirsty. Good Good episode. I
Also,
liked it. Because I love chillable red wines.
I like how our music is not going, but I'm still going in anticipation. There it is.
I heard it for like a second, and then it stopped.
My moves don't correspond very well with it anyway, so. I like this one. Cheers, Lynn. Thanks for being here. Cheers, Lauren. Good luck hiding from the kiddos. More mayo. That was from an earlier episode, huh, Britt?
No, it was on this episode. It was good when I talked about it was in my poem.
I know, but it was from a wine folly, something I said in an earlier episode.
It was, and that's why I said it. Was because you had said it, and so I brought it back.
Yeah.
Oh, this is all full circle.